backstage. Incredible people. The spirit, the love. People are crying. I mean, they're all crying.
When I came in backstage, very powerful guy, big, strong guy, with tears coming down on his face, said, "Thank you, Mr. President, for saving our country." This happens all the time. This happens all the time. Thank you. Tears. Tears. Big guy backstage. And he goes, "Sir, thank you very much for saving our country." He's almost got, most of them do have, but this one's too proud to cry. But he had tears. Tonight, came up to me a man, and he's crying. He said, "Thank you for saving our country." And it happens all the time. "Thank you very much, Mr. President." I said, "For what?" He said, "You've saved our country." No, he's this big, strong guy, and he's crying. A strong man came up to me, tough kind of a guy. And he had tears coming down his eyes. And he said, "I want to thank you, Mr. President, for saving our country. And I want to thank you for all of the horrible things that you have to go through, because it's so unfair to you." I just left a place called North Dakota. A man greeted me at the door, but it happened so much. And he was a strong, tough guy, and he was crying. And he said, "Mr. President, thank you for saving America. You have saved America." And he was crying. We had a tremendous crowd in Michigan, a big, strong guy. And he was pouring down tears as I'm getting up ready to speak. I'm walking by, and he was there. And he said, "Sir, thank you for saving our country." The steel workers, I said to a couple of big, strong guys that came up to me, one of them said, "Thank you, sir, for saving our country." And he was crying. We had an audience of steel workers, some of the roughest, toughest people you've ever seen. And half of them had tears coming down their face. I don't know if these people ever cried before in their life, to be honest. Half of them had tears coming down. I stepped into North Korea. Everybody was so happy. And many people I noticed from Korea were literally in tears, crying. I had home builders and farmers mostly, and ranchers. And many of them never cried in their life, including when they were born, and they were crying. Yeah, it's true, though. Men that were tough and strong, women that were tough and strong, they'd see me, their tears coming down their eyes, because I gave them back their property. I gave them back their farms. Strong, tough men and women. And half of them were crying. Strong man, big, tough guy, but he was crying. And he said, "President Obama took our life away when he closed the range, took our blood. And you gave it back to us." Upstairs, I have received phone calls with people crying. They received $100,000 in the mail. They didn't even know what it was for. It was from me. Coal miners up at the office. It was an amazing scene. They were crying, actually, and they were crying with happiness. Steel workers came up to me, and they were crying. I mean, there were like 8 or 9 of them, and only one wasn't. And I said, "What's your problem?" I've had such an incredible experience with the miners. And just a little while ago, backstage, there were 9. Of the 9, 8 of them were crying. And I looked at the 9th, crying out of happiness because they're back. I looked at the 9th guy, said, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you crying?" I've had the biggest people in the world come into this office, and they stop and they look. And actually some, I have had this too, strong, tough people start crying. Can you believe it? I have seen people cry that you'd never believe it.